Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to Utility Sports, and we're taking another look at the 2022 NFL Draft with a post-Super Bowl edition 2022 NFL Mock Draft. Make sure you guys leave a like for Mock Draft Monday as this series and process is fully underway now. We've already had a look at the Senior Bowl, and a ton has changed in this mock draft. So if you guys are new to the channel, make sure to leave a like on today's video, subscribe as well. Hit that notification bell, and also don't forget you can get 20% off at manscaped.com by using code utility20. They've got some really great products from pretty much anything you're looking for when it comes to manscaping down there. Take good care of yourself, and without further ado, let's jump into today's video here, Austin, with your Jacksonville Jaguars picking first overall. And in this rendition of your mock draft, post Senior Bowl, post Super Bowl, you're going with Evan Neal for Jacksonville. What really sparked your decision to go with the tackle here for Duval County?
When you look at Doug Peterson and the history of his coaching career, a lot of it has been predicated on offensive line play and defensive line play, which really that puts a lot of players in play at this spot. You have Aiden Hutchinson, you have Kayvon Thibodeau, Evan Neal. However, I think he's looking for that franchise left tackle. That's where Evan Neal slots in. You could put him at the left tackle spot, maybe move Walker Little to that right tackle spot. And that really shades out guys like Cam Robinson and Jawan Taylor, two guys that have really struggled at their time in Duval County. So that's why I am going with Evan Neal here with that first overall pick. It was a tough decision because you'd love to see those edge rushers pair up with Josh Allen. However, Evan Neal, the 6'7" frame, I mean, he's 351 pounds. He can really move well in space and pick up guys at that second and third level. But I opted to go with him just because they're trying to develop Trevor Lawrence, and this goes a long way in helping in that development process.
Those physicals will definitely be intriguing for Jacksonville, especially when you consider that Cam Robinson is headed toward free agency. Very possible he could catch on with another team this offseason. We will have an NFL live stream for NFL free agency, so make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel so you don't miss out on that as well, and much more that we post on the channel as we move into pick 2. And this here is the Detroit Lions. Of course, one of the losers of the Super Bowl, because the pick from the Rams basically ended up being the worst pick possible, pick 32. And now here, second overall, you have him going with edge Aiden Hutchinson. What does he bring to the table as he goes from Ann Arbor to Detroit?
Yeah, it's really hard to shy away from this selection. Aiden Hutchinson was the pick for them last week, and I go with it again this week. Reason being, he is just such a productive player, has great bend off the edge, really productive pass rusher, also phenomenal against the run. He's able to win with finesse. He's able to win with power. One of those complete edge rushers that you can really see really helping out a front seven. I think that's what he brings. You're able to keep him in state as well. There's so much to love about the pairing of Aiden Hutchinson and the Detroit Lions. I think this is the ideal matchup. This is exactly what you want if you are a Lions fan. They have a good opportunity here at number 2, considering Jacksonville's tackle need. It really gives them their choice potentially at a true number 1 pass rusher.
Based off of what we saw in Detroit this year under head coach Dan Campbell in his first season, a ton of close losses and a ton of internal progression, a little bit of an improvement to that front seven and a few skill positions, and we could see the Lions become fairly competitive in the NFC North rather quickly. Moving into pick 3, we're looking at the Houston Texans, and a second tackle already goes off the board here. Ike Ekwonu out of NC State, Austin. I know there's a lot to like about this guy. What specifically are you going to sell Houston Texans fans on?
I mean, if you are the Houston Texans, it really starts up front. They struggled a lot along that offensive line. It's really hard to tell exactly where that quarterback room's going to be. Is it going to be Davis Mills long-term? We don't really know the answer to that question. However, Deshaun Watson is still on this roster. They're going to be able to accumulate a lot of draft selections if they do decide to trade him this offseason. And it all starts up front for them. Really, tough offensive line play this year. Bringing in a guy like Ike Ekwonu, arguably the best run blocking tackle in the entire class. Developmental pass blocker as well. He's good in his own right. However, he's getting better and better each year. And I think if you are the Houston Texans, it's really tough because you have Kayvon Thibodeau sitting on the board, but they opt to go with Ekwonu here just because they're trying to build up this offensive line, really give Davis Mills, the best chance to succeed. And I like him here at number 3.
I think this will be phenomenal for Houston. They need to get better up front. They need to help their run game progress as well next to their young quarterback, Davis Mills. I think this is a win-win scenario for both Ekwonu and the Texans. Pick 4, Kayvon Thibodeau slides out of the top 3. One of the few times we've seen him out of the top 3 in our mock drafts this season. Austin, what has to do with his slide, and then what are the Jets getting here 4th overall?
A little bit of injury concerns, and also just the Texans really deciding that they want to take a tackle route instead of an edge rusher. But Kayvon Thibodeaux, really the complete package, in my opinion. I love what he brings to the table. Another guy that can win with power, win with finesse. Really, really strong upper body. Does a great job against the run. We've seen it with the amount of tackles for loss that we've seen. I love this for the New York Jets. Robert Saleh historically loves having great defensive line play, front 7 play in general. So them getting Kayvon Thibodeaux at number 4 is an absolute steal. I love this selection for the Jets. An A+ level pick for this roster.
The Jets this past season under head coach Robert Saleh had an okay year, showed some signs of progression, but really you went from having 0 premier pass rushers to arguably 2 next season if Carl Lawson comes back healthy, and then you add Kayvon Thibodeaux in the draft. This sounds like a massive win to the Jets, and they still have pick 10 coming yet too. So Jets fans, stay tuned for that selection. Moving on to pick 5, we're staying in New York, or should I say New Jersey, here with the New York Giants. We're looking at edge George Karlaftis out of Purdue as your selection. Interesting here. So we've had 3 edges go, 2 tackles in the first 5 picks. Break down Karlaftis and then also talk about the strengths of this year's draft class.
Yeah, absolutely. George Karlaftis, a guy that is absolutely phenomenal against the run, does a really great job containing the edges, forcing runs back inside. Just, he has a really, really good control of offensive linemen in that run game. Also a very, very productive pass rusher in his own right. So there's a lot to love about his skill set as a whole. And looking at the strength of this, this class in general, there's a lot of great trench play, whether it's an offensive tackle spot, whether it's an edge spot. There's so much you have to like about what this class has to offer, and if you are looking for that, it's a great year to be needy in said area. So I love George Karlaftis here. They have another draft pick to build upon it, as do the Jets. So really it's a good situation for the New York Giants here at number 5.
I'm glad you mentioned the trench play. We see some of those key players inside the trenches moving up and down your board, which is a good reason why you guys should be subscribed, because this is really a fluid process that changes week to week depending on the latest in film study and some of the latest information coming out in terms of measurables. Of course, scouting combine and pro days are going to be huge as well for these guys as we move into pick 6 here. And we're looking at the Carolina Panthers, and they're going with a Panther in their own right. Of course, Pittsburgh Panther quarterback Kenny Pickett. Very interesting. You have him quarterback 1 here at this point in the draft process. Do you think he will for sure be the first quarterback off the board?
Yeah, I can't say that with all certainty. There's a lot of the process that still has to transpire. However, from what we've been hearing in Carolina camp, they really like Kenny Pickett. This is a guy they are really focused in on. A guy that was not willing to provide his hand size at the Senior Bowl, as he thought a lot of teams would be scared of it. Joe Burrow had the same issue. So that's not really something I'm looking at, super deeply. However, it's something, that teams are looking at. The Carolina Panthers are a team that is looking for a quarterback. It's really tough, with the whole Sam Darnold situation. They paid a hefty price to the New York Jets to acquire Sam Darnold, but it does not appear to be the franchise quarterback. They go ahead and select Kenny Pickett. Been hearing a lot out of their camp that they like what they've seen on film. They love the late progression from him and, what they saw at the Senior Bowl as well. This could be a match made in heaven for these two sides, really. If you're Kenny Pickett, you're getting some really dangerous playmakers, Christian McCaffrey, DJ Moore, to name just a few. I love where this Panthers team is heading, and I think Kenny Pickett lands in a really good spot here.
Yeah, I think Kenny Pickett could be deemed as a job saver here for head coach Matt Rule if everything goes right there in Carolina. And for some of our viewers wondering as to why hand size might matter for a guy who we've seen throw the football and be successful at the collegiate level, you got to remember here, NFL organizations are looking at this as a $25+ million investment. Kenny Pickett is a big time investment if you take him in the top 10, and you have to get it right, which is why they're going to worry about every single tiny little detail, including if his hand size is 1/4 of an inch too small for their liking, they'll take that into consideration. Moving into pick 7, we're sticking with the Giants here again, and Tyler Linderbaum's the selection here. I think Giants fans are going to be very excited about this, getting an edge, and then also the best interior offensive lineman in this class, arguably, with Tyler Linderbaum. Break down what he brings to the Giants and how bad of a need this is.
Really smart offensive lineman, and the New York Giants have not been afraid to really address that offensive line spot. We've seen it in the past with Will Hernandez. We've seen it with Andrew Thomas. They're willing to invest first and second round draft choices into this offensive line. They also have a quarterback they're trying to develop in Daniel Jones, a couple of playmakers on that offense, like Kadarius Toney. So this offense is well on its way to really becoming, somewhat competent. This past season, we did not like what we've seen. I unfortunately they did not really, speak up to where they should be. However, with Saquon Barkley coming back healthy, Daniel Jones will be back healthy. This offense should be much improved, especially under Brian Daboll. I mean, that's the big thing out of this whole offseason process, bringing a guy like Brian Daboll who developed Josh Allen. Hopefully he can work some wonders with Daniel Jones, but Tyler Linderbaum is one of those really, really smart offensive linemen that you can plug and play. He's going to be a multi-time Pro Bowler, and you get him at number 7. And it's really important for a young quarterback to have a great center. We talked a lot about it on the channel. Tyler Linderbaum really addressing pass protections. One of the smartest guys in the draft when it comes to that and picking up stunts. I love this for the New York Giants.
New GM, new head coach, new center, new starting edge, and it's looking like a brighter time for the New York Giants. Moving into pick 8, we got the Atlanta Falcons here, and you got edge David Ojabo out of Michigan. We have 2 Michigan edges going in the top 10 here, Austin. Speak about David Ojabo, because I know a lot of the credit usually goes to Aiden Hutchinson when you talk about a Michigan Wolverine edge.
Yeah, when you look at David Ojabo, a lot of his wins are one-on-ones. And part of that is due to Aiden Hutchinson and all the attention he garnishes while watching those Michigan games. However, David Ojabo in his own right, phenomenal at winning his one-on-ones. He's a guy, once again, that is super, super productive. One of the top guys in the nation in terms of forcing fumbles. So he really knows how to generate turnovers himself, which is important at that edge spot. This is something Atlanta's been missing for quite a few years. Vic Beasley appeared to be that, ended up really not working out long-term for the Atlanta Falcons. They definitely need some more edge rushers. David Ojabo really provides that for them. They're in a really sticky situation with their quarterback spot. We're not exactly sure where they're going to go with it. But at this point, there's still some guys in round 2 that they can select at that QB spot where you can feel comfortable later on. But I love David Ojabo. He's just so talented. It's really tough to pass up on him at number 8.
For the Falcons, they do have a ton of bright spot players on that team. Kyle Pitts, AJ Terrell, to name a couple. Yeah, David Ojabo in there. You have another big-time playmaker, and hopefully they can continue building this team in the correct manner. Pick 9, we got the Denver Broncos, and here's one of those examples, Austin, of a guy who has really, really moved up your board, especially with where you think he's going to go on draft night. Trevor Penning, a guy who's been a fringe first-round pick for us, moves all the way up into the top 10 here for Denver, who is tackle needy. Break down what you saw from him. How much does the Senior Bowl come into play with something like this?
He is ferocious in terms of pass blocking. It was really fun to see him in one-on-ones. He was just so difficult to get by, and he would finish blocks. Let me tell you, he would absolutely put the defender into the ground. And he was honestly, he was really, really edgy during that. That's something you want to see from an offensive lineman. I mean, yes, he has that edge to him. However, also has a little bit of a calmness to him at the same time. I love what the Denver Broncos could do here. Really solidifying that offensive line. We're not exactly sure what this offense can look like. However, they have a dynamic running game. Defensively, they are very, very stout as well. We've seen that last season. They're making improvements along that offense. Trevor Penning, very, very talented player, fills a huge need. You can upgrade over a guy like Bobby Massey at that right tackle spot potentially. Garrett Bowles at that left tackle spot. And you look at that offensive line, they've definitely invested there. That's something that you have to say about the Denver Broncos. Once again, like the Giants, they are willing to invest in that offensive line. And they're another team you could be watching in that second round to potentially take one of those QBs that falls into that second.
Yeah, definitely. Trevor Penning here would be an obvious upgrade spot for them in the NFL draft if they're able to swing that. Pick 9th overall. They're going to be one of the interesting teams to watch because I don't think there's a specific player yet that we've really nailed down for them. It's been very wide open, and there's a lot of different ways the Broncos could look come draft night. Pick 10, we've got the New York Jets here, and they're taking advantage of a guy who has been in the top 5 for some of our mocks, usually around the top 7 mark, and that's Derek Stingley here out of LSU. I know a lot of Jets fans didn't like when we're taking him 4th overall, but the value, a lot better, 10th overall here. What's your thoughts on Stingley falling to 10?
Yeah, Derek Stingley, freak athlete, a guy that's got great ball skills and has really, quite frankly, just dealt with injuries. And I think that's, the main reason for his fall. I don't believe it should necessarily be warranted. From the product we've seen on the field, ever since he was a true freshman, has shown he is a lockdown corner. However, the last 2 seasons have been really rough on him injury-wise, and that's going to force him to fall a little bit. Guys in the NFL, especially talent evaluators, like to see guys that are available. He has not been available, especially in the last 2 seasons. Therefore, he's going to take a little bit of a tumble. If you are the New York Jets, though, this is an A+ level selection. Let me tell you, from the product we've seen on the field from him, and when he's healthy, this guy is an absolute stud, lockdown corner, gives you a little bit of shades of Darrelle Revis in terms of what he can do in coverage. High praise. I know a lot of Jets fans will say nobody will ever be like Revis. However, they're going to get a guy that is super competitive, phenomenal athlete, great in coverage. Will he ever live up to that Darrelle Revis, type of echelon? Probably not. However, this is going to be the closest thing that this team has seen since Revis.
That's definitely high praise there for Derek Stingley, and I feel like it's warranted. I've seen the film, I've watched him on tape, and it is warranted. He's a phenomenal cover guy. Look back at his freshman season with 7 interceptions. And like you said, I know some Jets fans are going to say, whoa, we don't want an injured cornerback. Remember, in the past, he's been injured. This isn't a guarantee that he's going to be injured in the future. There's a ton of players that have been injured throughout their NFL careers that weren't in college. Joe Burrow, Chase Young, Jeff Okudah, the top 3 from one draft, all had serious year-long injuries. Just because a player had college injuries doesn't mean he's going to have NFL injuries and vice versa. You have to take based off talent if you're the New York Jets, and Derek Stingley, he's the top of the board here for me as well. Moving on to pick 11, we've got the Washington Commanders here, and we have them going with quarterback Malik Willis. Austin, I know this is a player that you really like, his dynamism specifically. Talk to that. What could it do for Washington's offense?
It's really tough. When you watch Malik Willis throwing the football, there's a little bit of inconsistencies in throwing. However, that was the same case with Justin Herbert. That was the same case with Josh Allen. That's the same case with Lamar Jackson. 3 guys that would be guaranteed top 10 selections if we were to do it all over again, for sure. Malik Willis is kind of in that same category, inconsistent throwing the football at the college level. But when you have to look at things that you can develop, traits that they have, he is a dynamic runner, one of the best runners in all of college football, and you include that in the running back group, and also throwing the football. He's got one of the strongest arms in the entire class, if not the strongest. So when you combine those 2 things, you're going to be patient. You're going to have to wait. This is the perfect situation for him. They have Taylor Heineke currently at the quarterback spot. You give Malik Willis 1 year and really let him learn behind Taylor Heineke. He's going to develop an understanding of coverages better. He's going to be able to see the game from a different perspective, an NFL mind. This is just one of those perfect situations where you put him in here, has a lot of weapons around him, and it's going to make for a much smoother transition than maybe some of these other top 10 teams.
Yeah, it's not very often a quarterback comes along that can force guys to miss tackles, can outrun guys off the edge, can also deliver the deep bomb. He does all 3 of those things, and there is a ton of potential here. I think he's been one of the more slept on prospects throughout this process, and I think going 11th overall here does make a ton of sense. Washington willing to take that risk, and they'll probably get rewarded with it as well down the road. Moving on to pick 12, we've got the Minnesota Vikings, and I know some Vikings fans are going to be extremely happy to see this one, Austin. Kyle Hamilton takes a little bit of a tumble. Talk to positional value. Is this a Derwin James-esque fall?
And I'm glad you brought that up. This is the perfect Derwin James example. People might say there's no way that Kyle Hamilton falls, but at the same time, during the Derwin James draft, people thought there's no way he would have fell to 17 to the Chargers, and he did. And that's the situation we're falling into here. Positional value, people don't view that safety spot as a valuable spot. When you look at the Minnesota Vikings, a lot of their defensive success has been predicated on the play of Harrison Smith. And you put him alongside of Harrison Smith, watch out. That defense is going to be scary. How rangy he is, how great he is in the box, the versatility he provides, a great tackler and great ball skills. He's one of those perfect packages from that, defensive spot, especially at the safety spot. You have to love this if you're the Minnesota Vikings. You are selecting purely based off of value and also need. So there's a lot to love about this pick. Once again, one of those A+ level selections. The fact that he falls to 12, you're getting a Pro Bowl level player here.
The previous regime there in Minnesota, of course, nailed the pick with a Notre Dame safety, Harrison Smith. We'll see if the new regime there as well can get it started with a phenomenal safety pick of another Notre Dame safety, this time Kyle Hamilton. Pick 13, we're moving on to the Cleveland Browns. I think this has become one of your favorite mocks here throughout this process, Austin. That is wide receiver Garrett Wilson out of Ohio State. Is he your wide receiver 1? And then what does he bring to Cleveland?
Yeah, he is my wide receiver 1. I previously had Treylon Burks going here to Cleveland. Now I have Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson is one of those guys that when you watch him on film, it's incredible what he can do with the ball in his hands. A player, a lot of people talk about Treylon Burks' ability after the catch, and Garrett Wilson is that same way. He is super shifty. He's a phenomenal route runner as well. It's when you look at it from a physical standpoint, he doesn't compare to a Treylon Burks size-wise. However, when you look at what he brings on the field, game in, game out, he played with a lot of talented receivers. However, he really stood out to me. When the ball needed to go to somebody, it seemingly in those big moments always went to Garrett Wilson. I love the selection for Cleveland. They're a wide receiver needy team. If you are Baker Mayfield, this is exactly the guy you want to bring in. Him, Jarvis Landry, Donovan Peoples-Jones. This could be a very formidable wide receiver room, and I think this is a great selection for Cleveland.
This is the year for the Browns to go out and grab a wideout in round one. Of course, Baker Mayfield's 5th season in the NFL, and this is kind of a prove-it year for him. He's had 2 really good years, 2 really down years, and I think this final 5th year on that rookie deal is going to be huge to determine his future in Cleveland. Moving on to pick 14, we've got the Baltimore Ravens here, and people are going to be saying, whoa, we have a massive jump, someone we haven't seen in the first round extremely often here. I know he's been in a couple of our first round mocks, Austin, and now you have him in the top half. That's Jermaine Johnson here out of Florida State. He's been extremely productive. What does he bring at the NFL level?
Jermaine Johnson, the Florida State man, former transfer from Georgia, also started out at Independence Community College. So a little representation there, a guy that's jumped around a lot. However, insanely productive. 17.5 tackles for loss, 11.5 sacks for him at Florida State this past season. It's been a grind for him to get to this point, but finally he's starting to reach his potential. People are finally putting him on notice, a guy that you can really trust. And if you look at that edge spot, one of the premier talents in this draft in terms of what he can bring from a pass rushing standpoint. He also plays the run phenomenally. And if you are the Baltimore Ravens, this is exactly what they're looking for. This is exactly what they've been trying to replace with Matt Judon being out, out of town essentially. Jermaine Johnson, I think fit-wise is just absolutely perfect for this roster.
Yeah, we're seeing a real reshaping here of Baltimore's defense as we speak. Of course, they lost Judon last year in free agency. Of course, they took Odafe away last year as well. Then you look at Calais Campbell. He's up for a new contract this year. The Ravens have some options to make. We'll get a better feel for him as we go throughout NFL free agency. But as of right now, I think Jermaine Johnson would be a crazy good pick for the Baltimore Ravens. Pick 15, we're looking at the Philadelphia Eagles here, and Sauce Gardner slides down to Philadelphia. And Howie Roseman won't think twice about this one. Loves to draft from Cincinnati, has done it multiple times in the past, and has found a ton of success with that, Austin. He continues that trend here. What does Sauce Gardner bring?
Sauce Gardner, not the guy that's going to blow you away physically. However, his coverage skills are off the charts. I love this for the Philadelphia Eagles because they definitely need a corner. Darius Slay has played very, very well for them this past season, but they need another guy in that secondary. That's why they select Ahmad Gardner, a guy that just doesn't give up touchdowns, and a guy that you can truly trust on that back end. If you are the Philadelphia Eagles, it's going to be a common theme that you see defense on this. I think they're improving. I think they're getting better and better, over these last couple of seasons, trying to regain that form in 2017. But I love this for the Philadelphia Eagles. They got to get better on that back end.
And they definitely do here. Sauce Gardner improves their cornerback room immensely. And then we stick with them here, 16th overall, Austin. And you're going with the wide receiver. So these two are going to get to battle a little bit in practice. Treylon Burks, I know some people see him as a wide receiver 1. You not as high with Garrett Wilson as your wide receiver 1, but I know you still really like Treylon Burks' game. Talk to what he brings to Philly.
Love Treylon Burks. I love what he can bring after the catch. I love his catch radius. There's so much that you have to love about him. This is not common, people. Okay. I have not had a wide receiver go to Philadelphia this entire mock draft season. Ever since we started this process, I hadn't had a wide receiver go to my knowledge. But Treylon Burks, I mean, think about what he can bring to this offense. You have Devontae Smith, you have Treylon Burks coming at you. There's so much that you could love about this, pairing him with Jalen Hurts. This could be a dynamic duo at that wide receiver position, a true red zone threat. That's something they definitely need. Dallas Goedert's been pretty good in that red zone area, but at the wide receiver spot, they definitely need another bigger body target. That's why Treylon Burks comes into the fold.
Treylon Burks here, you add him into the fold, like you said, Austin, and you establish a really dominant trio of Devontae Smith, who can really stretch the field, be a deep threat for you, Dallas Goedert, who can be that security blanket inside the numbers, and then Treylon Burks, who can do a ton of different things for you, get the ball on bubble screens and take it to the house, throw him across the middle on some slants. He can work outside the numbers as well, gives you a ton of versatility with play calling, and I think he'd be a phenomenal addition for Philadelphia. 17 here, we got DeMarvin Leal out of Texas A&M. I know this is another guy you really like, and I think this is a phenomenal fit for the Chargers, who need to get better in their trench play, specifically against the run. How much does DeMarvin Leal really move the needle for LA?
I think it moves it significantly for them because they've been really lacking in an interior presence along that defensive line. Jerry Tillery has not worked out to the level they had hoped. You definitely think that a guy like Jordan Davis would really fit the bill here as well. However, I like Leal's ability to stay on the field for 3 downs. I don't see the same thing for Jordan Davis. Jordan Davis is phenomenal in first and second down. Third down, though, I definitely have my questions about his stamina in terms of what he can be as a pass rushing defensive tackle. DeMarvin Leal can do that. On every single down, he's able to have that same motor, and a guy that can definitely generate some more pressure. Leal here for the Chargers, huge difference maker for this team.
I like this a lot. Of course, in that division, you have to be able to get after the quarterback, but you also have to be able to contain the run. One of the more diverse divisions in terms of how teams move the football, dealing with the Kansas City Chiefs, who really are throw heavy. And then you look at the Raiders, who like getting Josh Jacobs involved early and often. It's going to be tough, but I think this is a really good way for the Chargers to build up their roster. Moving on to 18, New Orleans Saints here, and you're opting for a quarterback, which is interesting because I think the Saints are one of the more intriguing teams based off of their salary cap number heading into the offseason. Some of the key guys are going to lose. Does Matt Corral steal the starting job long-term from Jameis Winston? And do you think this is the right pick even while you're mocking it?
Yeah, it's really tough because we don't know truly if Jameis Winston will be back next season, considering the lack of money that they have. Maybe it's really going to be Ian Book, Taysom Hill, and then Matt Corral. That might be the quarterback room we're seeing next year because of that, all the contract situations that we have going on in New Orleans. They're definitely going to have to cut some corners at some point. Matt Corral, under Dennis Allen, it's going to be an interesting pairing. I think they have to look at that QB room. I don't think Taysom Hill is that long-term starting option. I think he's a really, really fun, guy, maybe a bridge quarterback for them. But long-term, I see Matt Corral as being potentially the QB1 in this class. I'm still undecided on where I sit with it. However, he's came a long way, since the previous year at Ole Miss, really cut back on the turnovers. He's a quick trigger quarterback, a guy that's definitely cut back on those turnovers in terms of what he brings. Pretty good athlete and pretty good arm as well. I love this for the New Orleans Saints. They're getting definitely better at that QB room. Once again, it really all hinges on what happens with Jameis Winston.
Of course, it for sure does. And there is a ton looming there in New Orleans. We don't really know who their head coach is going to be yet at this point. And there's a ton looming out there as well for the Saints. Moving on to pick 19 here, we are looking now at the Philadelphia Eagles, yet again, their third pick in the first round, and this is another great one here. Linebacker Devin Lloyd out of Utah. Speak to what he could bring to Philadelphia, who historically doesn't draft linebackers in round 1.
Yeah, Devin Lloyd. I mean, he's all over the field all the time. A guy that just has a great instinct for where the ball is going to end up at the end of the play. Really good in pass coverage. Phenomenal against the run as well. One of those complete linebackers that you can trust on that second level of your defense. And if you look at what the Philadelphia Eagles need, it's somebody on that second level, truly. I think Devin Lloyd fills the gap there. This defense is getting scarier and scarier. The fact that they have these 3 first-round picks at their disposal is absolutely terrifying if you are teams in that division, because they can do a lot of different things. They were a playoff team. How their roster currently stands shouldn't be a ton of changes in the offseason, but the fact that they're able to bring in 3 first-round selections and Devin Lloyd being one of them, that's absolutely terrifying.
Very rarely do you see an NFL team own even 2 first-round picks, let alone 3, and then make it a playoff team on top of that. That is absolutely terrifying with a young, dynamic quarterback. I think the Eagles are one of the best teams set up for future success. So Eagles fans, if you are excited, make sure to leave a like on today's video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out more on the Eagles content. Moving into 20, we got the Pittsburgh Steelers here. You're going with tackle Charles Cross out of Mississippi State. I think he's a perfect fit into what they need. What is it that they need there in Pittsburgh?
They need some more pass protection. We saw it this year. They definitely struggled in that area. And if you are the Pittsburgh Steelers, quarterback is definitely on the mind at number 20. However, I think with where the quarterbacks currently stand and what could be potentially available in that second round, there's some other interesting names like Carson Strong, Desmond Ridder that could potentially be there, or you could trade up for in that second round. But Charles Cross, from a value standpoint, is really tough to pass up. And what he brings in that pass protection, it's really crucial for them. They got to get better up front. Historically speaking, they've had really good offensive lines. However, this offensive line this past year looked like, essentially a shell of itself. So Charles Cross being inserted as that starting tackle is going to be really, really good for this offense.
This draft is going to be massively important for Pittsburgh. They need to improve in a few different areas. And I think starting it off here 20th overall with Charles Cross is a really good way to do it. Moving to pick 21 now, we have at this point the New England Patriots. And you're going with linebacker Nakobe Dean here. You're adding a little bit of speed, even though he's a little bit undersized, maybe doesn't fit what Belichick normally goes with. What could he really open up in this Patriots defense?
Love this for the New England Patriots because Bill Belichick loves guys that, are versatile. And that's definitely what Nakobe Dean can bring. Dynamic athlete, like you had mentioned, a little bit undersized. However, does a nice job in the run game. Once again, he's getting better and better against the pass as well. But for how dynamic of an athlete he is, that's essentially what New England needs. A guy that's a little more athletic on that second level. Dante Hightower's done a really nice job for years and years, but I think bringing a guy like Nakobe Dean could be super dangerous. And what Bill Belichick could do with him is honestly really scary.
Yeah, it for sure is. I think he would be a phenomenal addition into New England. And you add some real talent and athleticism into a really good, strong system, and you have a recipe for success. Pick 22 here, we got the Las Vegas Raiders, and this is a little bit of a remake to their offensive line. And I think Josh Jacobs would be the happiest guy in Vegas after this selection of Kenyon Green, the interior offensive lineman out of Texas A&M. Speak to his skill set and really what he would help there in Vegas.
Well, you look at what the Raiders have done. They essentially had to recreate their offensive line, and now under a newer regime, Mike Mayock being out, you have Josh McDaniels in as the head coach. And if you look at what they had done in New England, a lot of pulling guard action. And I think Kenyon Green really fits the bill, one of the most athletic offensive linemen in the entire class. So fit-wise, schematically-wise, this makes too much sense for me. The fact that he can really get out in space and be a lead blocker for Josh Jacobs is a true match made in heaven. I love this for the Las Vegas Raiders.
This would be massive for them to get someone this athletic. Kenyon Green's one of my favorite players in the entire class, and I think he's going to be a phenomenal offensive lineman at the NFL level. And I think the Raiders here get a really good selection. Years past, they kind of kept us on our toes in round one. With the new regime in place, I think that they're going to draft extremely well starting on day one of the NFL draft. Here we go, sticking with the Cardinals now here, a team that started off the season so hot and just didn't end the way that they had hoped. There's a lot of questions about Kyler Murray right now, but we're going to be focused on their NFL draft pick. 23rd overall, Austin Kyer Elam out of Florida. He's been all over the place in our mock drafts. Talk about why it's been difficult to exactly place him where he needs to be.
Yeah, Kyer Elam's a really, really tough project. I'm interested to see where he tests athletically. I think he should test at least okay, but what he brings is really good size. Got the 6'2" frame, long arms. And if you look at Arizona, they definitely need some more of that length on the outside. Byron Murphy is a good corner in his own right. Robert Alford, long-term, that's not my guy, truthfully. So Kyer Elam stepping in could be a really, really nice corner and complement to a guy like Byron Murphy. Put him on some of those bigger receivers. And I think that's honestly a really, really good start to rebuilding the secondary and making some tweaks to it.
Yeah, I definitely think they have to address that cornerback room, especially when you have to go against guys like DK Metcalf, Cooper Kupp. There's a ton of talented wide receivers there in the NFC West. And I think Kyer Elam will help combat that a little bit. Pick 24, the Dallas Cowboys. And we're going with another cornerback here, Darian Kendrick out of Georgia. Again, this is one of my favorite players in the NFL draft, just based off of what he's done in his collegiate career. I think he's going to translate extremely well to the NFL. Austin, do you see it the same way?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think the Dallas Cowboys would see it in that same way. Trayvon Diggs definitely had a big season. I think Darian Kendrick could do the same thing for the Dallas Cowboys. When you look at his body of work at Clemson and then moving over to Georgia, he was one of those unsung heroes in that Georgia defense. A lot of people give credit to Jordan Davis, Nakobe Dean, but Darian Kendrick in that secondary was super, super critical for their success, was truly able to shut down one side of the field, was rarely targeted and picked on during the course of the year. So Darian Kendrick going to the Dallas Cowboys, absolutely huge. They're trying to get better in that secondary. And this does a really, really nice job for them transitioning. There's definitely going to be some changes contract-wise. They're going to have to cut some costs. And I think Darian Kendrick could fit in nicely as that cornerback 2 in Dallas.
Yeah, I definitely think him helping shut down a side of the field would be valuable. I know a lot of teams do like to throw at Trayvon Diggs. He generates a lot of turnovers, also does give up some yards, but shutting down the other side kind of empowers Trayvon Diggs' ability to jump passes and get interceptions, which I think is huge, generating turnovers, setting up this Dallas Cowboys offense. Pick 25, the Buffalo Bills here, another cornerback going. Trent McDuffie out of Washington has been pretty much a consistent staple here in the 20s for us as of late. Why is he pick 25 worthy, and what's your thoughts on him and his NFL career?
Leslie Frazier and Sean McDermott love guys that are just really good football players. We've seen that, the latest examples, Jordan Poyer, Micah Hyde. They love these guys that are just super consistent. Maybe won't athletically blow you away, size-wise won't blow you away. However, Trent McDuffie does a really, really nice job manning that cornerback spot. Granted, his size and everything and athleticism, it's just not going to extremely wow you, but he was so terrific in coverage this year. One of the more underrated players in the entire country and what he was able to do at that corner spot. Buffalo's just looking for good guys to really implement. And if you are the Buffalo Bills, you look at what you have in Tre'Davious White, you have Trent McDuffie and Levi Wallace, really, really good trio of corners. And essentially in that AFC that you're really trying to win, where there's a lot of great passing offenses, and that's exactly where they need to be.
Yeah, I think they're really ready to make a big jump next year. You get a healthy Tre'Davious White back. Yeah, Trent McDuffie into the fold, and then hopefully your young pass rushers you drafted last year can take a step forward, and all of a sudden Buffalo becomes a mega superstar defensive team with a really great offense as well. And I think it's really possible. Buffalo, of course, had a great season, just came up a little bit short, about 13 seconds short. Pick 26 here, we've got the Tennessee Titans, and we're going with the tight end here to replace Jonnu Smith there in Tennessee. That's Trey McBride out of Colorado State, Austin. He's been someone who's been a huge riser throughout the season. Talk to his production a little bit, and also where you think he could also help Tennessee and Derrick Henry.
I mean, he had 90 catches and 1,000 yards, but he only had 1 touchdown. So not one of those true red zone threat guys. However, a consistent volume tight end that you can bring into an organization like Tennessee. Desperately was missing Jonnu Smith. We saw that last season. However, bringing in a guy like him is going to be super beneficial for Ryan Tannehill, who really leaned on a guy like Jonnu Smith, last season. But I love this for the Tennessee Titans. They're in a good spot here. Honestly, you don't have to feel like you have to reach on him here. There's going to be other opportunities for Tennessee if they want to trade back. But I love this, from an actual talent standpoint, he's right there. I know a lot of people were liking Jalen Whitemeyer earlier in the year. However, Trey McBride solidified himself as the true tight end one. When you look at the film, production wise and overall talent, he just fits the bill as the number 1 tight end in this class.
This is a very well-deserved selection. Trey McBride, someone I'm extremely high on. I know you've been high on him all year, Austin. I think Tennessee gets a really nice football player, 26th overall. Moving into pick 27, we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers here, and there's a lot of in the air there for Tampa Bay. You're going with the guy who could be an extremely good offensive lineman. That's Daniel Falele out of Minnesota. Perhaps a guy who has top 3 or 4 offensive linemen in the class type of potential with his size, athleticism. Talk about what you get with him.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the frame alone, that's enough to make an offensive coordinator drool just because of what he can bring. When you look at what you can develop him into, he has one of those top tier traits in terms of, the overall size and athleticism for that size. But, it's a little concerning to me. Is he going to be able to keep up with the speed of the NFL? Potentially. That's why he does fall to 27. Honestly, he's not the perfect prospect. However, Tampa Bay is looking to cut costs. Donovan Smith could see himself on the way out this season. They bring in a guy like Daniel Falele. It's going to be really, really interesting to see what Tampa Bay can develop, the post-Tom Brady era. However, the upside with him is absolutely insane. Could be one of the best tackles in the league if it really pans out how we think it potentially could. I love this selection for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah, I think Tampa's retooling starts on the offensive line. Ryan Jensen, Alex Kappa both headed toward free agency. Donovan Smith, you named him there as a guy who could see himself on the way out just based off of contract and where the whole team sits at this point. Daniel Falele would be a phenomenal addition, though, into Tampa. Moving into pick 28, we're going with another offensive tackle to a team that has high aspirations, the Green Bay Packers. We're going with Bernhard Raimann, someone who, again, has really impressed throughout the Senior Bowl, former tight end. What does he bring? I know you like him from an athletic standpoint.
Yeah, like you mentioned, former tight end. And this is a guy that has played very, very little football in his career coming from Austria. The Western Michigan product is still learning the game. From what he's already shown on tape and everything, it's really exciting to see where he's at. The fact that he's a first round level selection, just barely playing football in his, his actual NFL life, or, in his collegiate life, it's really crazy to me. The Green Bay Packers have to upgrade over Billy Turner, in my opinion. Billy Turner's fine, but if he's just a swing tackle, a guy that's going to make some spot starts along that offensive line, Raimann is a guy that is a true developmental piece, and that's kind of what you're getting at this spot in the draft with these tackles. We've seen it with Lele and now Raimann to the Packers.
Yeah, I definitely think he can help this team out both in the run game and in the pass game. Held up very well throughout Senior Bowl week, and I think he's someone who has a bright NFL career ahead of him. Pick 29 here, we got the Miami Dolphins, another player who I think has a bright NFL career ahead of him, someone I absolutely love, and I know you do as well, Austin. That's Drake London out of USC. Dealt with an ankle fracture earlier in the year, something similar to what Jalen Waddle had to go throughout the draft process. What do you like about him? What really intrigues you about London as a prospect?
Drake London's going to be a phenomenal red zone threat. I mean, at his time at USC, high volume pass catcher as well. This past season was a true go-to guy. And that's kind of what Jalen Waddle was at Alabama, pre-injury. And I think that's not really going to scare this Miami Dolphins team away. Drake London, you have to look at it from the standpoint of who's really going to help Tua out on that outside. That 6'5" frame is really hard to ignore. The fact that he is athletic as he is, with that frame is really, really exciting to me. We've seen guys like Mike Williams really elevate the play of Justin Herbert as well. That's what Drake London can do for Tua and this Miami offense.
Yeah, Drake London was one of the most efficient hitch and curl runners at the NFL or at the collegiate level. And some of those at the NFL level include Devontae Adams. So I think there is a lot of high upside here for him. Not saying he's going to be Devontae Adams, but that is a high frequency route. He found a lot of consistency with Keaton Slovis, and I think that will translate extremely well with Tua Tagovailoa. Pick 30, Chris Olave here, and I think everyone in the AFC West just got a little scared. He had another crazy good playmaker in Chris Olave to the Kansas City Chiefs. I can see it now, a lot of big touchdowns and making it way more difficult to hone in on Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill. The Chiefs get dangerous here, even more so. What do you like about this?
Honestly, it was really tough. If you are any team in the AFC West, the fact that you could upgrade Byron Pringle to a guy like Chris Olave, that's absolutely terrifying. You have Mecole Hardman, you have Tyreek Hill, you have Travis Kelce, a lot of speed on that offense, and Chris Olave is a big play receiver, and I love this for Kansas City. I know a lot of people are going to say, they definitely need some defense. They can address that in the next couple of rounds, but Chris Olave added to this offense is another level of scary. I don't know how you're going to defend all of these playmakers on this offense. Especially Jerick McKinnon became a really, really big piece for them down the stretch. This team next year is going to be really scary. Once again, I think people kind of slipped on them a little bit heading into the postseason. They were sleeping on them. But now you add a guy like Chris Olave to this offense. Once again, how are you going to stop all these playmakers?
Yeah, I think this is too good of an outcome for Andy Reid and the Chiefs to pass on here. If he's available, I think they just have to pull the trigger, 30th overall. And then you worry about the defense later. Rounds 2 through 7, maybe you double down and take a ton of defensive players throughout those 6 rounds remaining. But here in the first round, Chris Olave, that's a dream come true for Kansas City. 31, we've got the Cincinnati Bengals. What a great season they had. Unfortunately, came up just close, just a little too short. And I think this is a pick that's really built around some of the issues we've seen this season. Joe Burrow was sacked more often than any other quarterback in the NFL this year. And of course, their season ended with Aaron Donald and the Rams running into him a ton, getting pass rush all over him. How bad do they need an offensive tackle like Nicholas Petitfrere?
This was solely motivated off of what we've seen during all regular season, all postseason, it all remained the same. What was the issue? Joe Burrow just did not have enough time to throw the football. Really, really great when he has time. He's great when he's pressured too. However, Nicholas Petitfrere gets to stay in state. One of the best pass blocking tackles in the entire class, and that's what they need more of. This is a pass-centric offense. And adding a guy like Nicholas Pettifrere at that tackle spot is going to go a long ways in terms of, helping Joe Burrow really develop, helping those receivers get more time to develop into the route tree. So Nicholas Pettifrere going here to the Bengals from Ohio State, it's a perfect match to me.
This benefits Zach Taylor. This benefits Joe Burrow. And it benefits that wide receiving core there as well. Jamar Chase specifically down the field. You're going to be able to hit more big plays even more consistently if you give Joe Burrow time. I think this makes a ton of sense, not only for Pettifrere, but also for Joe Burrow and the Bengals. Pick 32, our final pick here. Make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe as well. And Lions fans, you should have a massive smile on your face here because obviously a player slides to you a little bit after a severe knee injury in the national title game. Jamison Williams out of Alabama. I really like this kid. I know a lot of other people do as well, solely based off his athleticism. Lions here, of course, during Senior Bowl week, Dan Campbell named the wide receiver position as an area of need for this team. So very possible they do look at a wideout on either day 1 or 2. You have it here, second pick of day 1. Talk about what he brings.
Jamison Williams, big play threat. That's exactly what the Detroit Lions need, a home run hitter. Only reason he falls to 32 is because of that injury. Let's be completely honest. If he was healthy heading into this draft, he would have been selected a lot earlier in this draft. But now the fact that they can get him at 32 because of that injury, they have to be patient. They know they're not, really true contenders heading into next season. So they can afford to wait. He might not be there right away. However, it's going to be worth the wait for this guy. Big play receiver, a guy that can take it to the house pretty much anytime he has the football in his hands. That's how dynamic of an athlete he is. And the Detroit Lions really need that level of dynamism and athleticism at that wide receiver spot.
I definitely think he's a great compliment next to Amon-Ra St. Brown as well, who really came on as of late down the stretch of the season. Lions, they have a pretty bright future if they nail these first picks they have in this year's draft. They have a ton of other assets as well. Lions fans, you should be extremely excited for what the future holds in Lions football. Hopefully you guys did enjoy. If you did, make sure to be subscribed, hit that notification bell as well. Leave a like on our videos, check out our other ones, and then also use code utility20 for 20% off plus free shipping at manscaped.com. Thanks everyone again so much, and we'll catch you in the very next Utility Sports video.